Ordering form fields in the tag structure. In this video, we're going to talk about making sure that our form fields are read in the appropriate order for all users and for users of assistive technology. Assistive technology reads tags in the order in which they appear in the tag structure. For that reason, it's important that we position those form tags appropriately. It's important that form tags are read at the appropriate location within the tag structure so that the user has a good reading experience when using assistive technology. The form elements themselves have an order that also needs to be appropriately set within the document. Here we are back in our tuition reimbursement request and authorization form. And what I want to do here is show you how to make sure that your form fields are in the appropriate order. There's actually two places where we want to do this inside of Adobe Acrobat. The first way I'm going to show you is by going into the Prepare Form tool. So I'm going to come up here to my All Tools button and I'm going to choose Prepare a Form. Now, when in the Prepare Form mode, we're going to see all of the form fields in edit mode, but also over here on the right is going to be a list of all the form fields in our document. Now, to demonstrate this to you, I'm actually going to exit out of this for a second, and if I click in this first field, what I want to do is I'm going to press the Tab key on my keyboard, which will take me to the next logical form field in the document. But you'll notice that when I do this, it jumps all the way down here to this field here. And if I press Tab again, well, then it jumps up here into the middle. And if I press Tab again, it jumps back over here to my employee ID. Now, personally, nothing frustrates me more than when I'm filling out a form and the form fields are navigated in random order. It is not a good user experience for anybody, and it's actually quite frustrating. So if we go back into the Prepare Form mode, over here on the right is a list of all the form fields in our document. But what you need to understand is that the order in which these form fields appear is going to be the tab order of the form fields when a user is filling out the form. So here you can see I have employee name as the first one, but then it jumps down here to semester credit hours. So what I want to do is I want to grab my form fields and I basically want to make sure that I put them in the appropriate order. So I'm going to kind of drag these guys up. And what you can also do here is you can click on the first one and use the down arrow key, and that'll allow you to navigate from one form field to the next and see what order they're in. So you can see here that jumped around a little bit, but so what I want to do is move course title up here. And then what I can do is grab the rest of these guys and put them in the appropriate order. So now if I go through my form, I can visually see the order in which they're going to be tabbed. There we can see we have an item that is out of order. I need the employee signature. So I'm going to grab that and move that up here. There we go. And it looks like my radio buttons are missing, so I want to make sure that I grab those guys. And I want to put them after the employee date. There we go. And using this method, it allows you to kind of determine, where these elements should go. So I'm just making sure that as somebody is tabbing through here, that it's going to be appearing or it's going to navigate in the appropriate order. And that is looking pretty good. So that takes care of the tab order of the form fields in my document. I'm going to go ahead and exit Prepare a Form mode. I'll go ahead and save my form. And now we want to take a look at the tag structure of our document. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my tags pane, And as we've seen before, when we tag the form fields, we can see that all of these form elements got added to the bottom of the list of tags. They're not even in the document tag right now. They're basically added at the bottom. Now, this creates an inherent problem because form tags, by default, want to be an inline level element. And so what I'm going to do to demonstrate this, I'm going to run this document through my pack checker. So if I drag this over to my pack checker, you're going to see that currently I'm going to get a bunch of errors. And if I look at the results in detail, you will see that way down here I have a whole bunch of errors on my form elements. And the error you can see is that the form structure element is used as a root element. Now what that means in the tag structure, anything that is at the first level of tags is what's referred to as the root element. And right now all of these form tags are at the root level of the tag structure. Now we can keep them there if we want. However, we would need to add a unique attribute to every one of those form fields so that they would not error within the checker. And that attribute would be a placement attribute of block. And by doing that, that would avoid that error. However, there's actually a better way, and one that will allow us to avoid that error without having to do any extra work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my document tag here, and I'm going to navigate in my tag structure to the first caption, of the form fields that I want to be read. So you can see right now I have employee's name selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the form tag for employee name, and right there it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the P tag for employee name, and then I'm going to drag the form tag as a child of the P tag. So now the P tag contains not only the text that says employee's name, but also the form field that belongs to that text. Let's do another one so you can see. So here's employee ID. I'm going to find the form tag. And I'll show you another trick for doing this, right? So I'm going to find that form tag. There it is. The other way you could do this is if you right-click on the form tag, we can choose Cut. And then I'm going to come up here to the P tag that contains the employee ID text. And if you right-click on the P tag, we can choose Paste Child. And that pastes the form tag as a child of the P tag. And I'm going to move that below the text, right? So now it's going to read the text and then the form field. And what I want to do here is I need to repeat this process for each one of the labels or the captions for the form fields that they belong to. Now, when you get down to this area here, we encounter a little bit of a problem. And this is because in the Microsoft Word document, signature and date was created by typing signature, hitting the tab key, and then typing date. And the problem, as you can see here within this P tag, is that the signature and date are in a single block. So right now, the way that this would read, it would say signature, date, and then it would read the form for signature and then the form for date. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between the caption for the form and the form itself. So the way that we can address this is I'm going to click on the tag for that object, and using my cursor, I'm going to highlight the word signature. And with that text highlighted, I'm going to come over here in my tags pane. I'm going to click on the three-dot menu, and I'm going to choose Create Tag from Selection. And you'll see that what happened here is it broke the elements apart into separate elements. So now I can put the form field at the correct location within the tag structure. So now it reads the signature text, the signature form, the date text, and the date form. So we're going to have to do that down here as we get to this radio button. You can see that all this text is kind of grouped together as one object. So I'm going to have to come in here, highlight this text, click on the three-dot menu and say Create Tag from Selection. Now we've kind of broken that apart. And then I'm also going to highlight Permanent and choose Create Tag from Selection. And that's going to break these elements apart appropriately. So I want employee status to be read first. Then I want permanent. And then I want non-permanent temporary. And you'll see there are some space elements that got included here, and that's fine. It's fine to leave them there. But now I can find the form field that matches up to that. So I want to find the permanent radio button. There it is. And then I'll move this after the text that says permanent. And then I'll move non-permanent after the text that says non-permanent. And now everything within there is tagged appropriately. So I'm going to continue on and I'm going to finish moving the form tags into their appropriate location. And there we go. So I've now nested all of the form elements at the appropriate location within the tag structure. One thing I do want to point out as I've been doing this is that when we get to the radio buttons, even though visually the radio button appears before the text on the form, in the tag structure, I always like to position the radio button after the text. So you'll notice as you look in my tag structure, I'm reading the text, recommend approval, see comments, and then I read the radio button. And I think that's a better experience because reading the radio button first, you're kind of missing the context of what the radio button is about. And that's really a personal preference of mine. If you prefer to read the radio button first, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different approach to the problem. So now that I've nested all of my form tags at the appropriate location in the tag structure, I can be assured that this document is going to be read appropriate using assistive technology.